Welcome to episode 299 of Preps Today with John Millea. We were just talking off the air. We should have saved Patrick Ricey for 300. Instead, he's on 298. He's going to be greatly insulted by that and will be ripping us on social media shortly, I am sure. No, last week we had Patrick Ricey on. Highly recommend going back in the archives and listening to that one. Always great to have Pat on the network. We have him on when there's a reason to. But this one will be more of our traditional show, bouncing around the state, hearing about the best stories, the best people in Minnesota's high school sports and activities. He's John Millea from the MSHSL. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune. Thanks to our longtime sponsor, Pizza Barn in Princeton. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio, and we want to remind you we have lots of great shows on the network. We keep adding great people. If you find a show you like, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. And now let's dive in, John. Episode 299. Let's start with a typical great John Millea opening story, a heroic high school athlete.
Yeah. Hey, Jim. Happy 299. They said it couldn't be done. Here we
all
are.
Did. We proved them all wrong. We're doubters and haters. We proved them all wrong.
No respect. That's right. No respect. But here we are. Yeah, a heroic high school athlete. I was down in Montgomery, Minnesota last week. Montgomery National Golf Club, which is beautiful. There for a big cross-country meet, the Jerry Smith Invitational, hosted by the local high school there, Tri-City United. That school includes kids from Montgomery, Lonsdale, and La Center. My mission was to write about a Tri-City United junior, a 17-year-old kid named Grant Fitterer, who is a true hero. And the story really has nothing to do with cross-country, but he's a pretty good cross-country runner. I got to see him and hundreds of other kids run on a beautiful day. And but the story is, this was back in August. Grant has a part-time job at a cook. He's a cook at a restaurant in Lonsdale. I said, what do you use the money for? And he basically said, I buy running shoes. So he works a couple days a week, I think on the weekends mostly. So one day in August, one of his coworkers in the kitchen went to his car, was taking a break. And while that person was out there, that person had a medical emergency. The car was running, the air conditioner was on, the windows were rolled up. And this other young man basically passed out. And I don't know if it was a seizure. I don't know the details, but his foot was rammed down on the accelerator hard. So this, as Grant's dad, Alan, told me, Alan's the principal at Tri-City United. He said, he had his foot on the accelerator. He was passed out. The RPMs were redlining. And Grant is in the kitchen. He smells smoke. And, he's smart enough to know he's working in a commercial kitchen. So he checks the burners and the fryers. Everything's good. Then he went outside, sees this car. Sees this car. The interior is nothing but smoke. Like I said, the windows are shut. He's told me, thankfully, the driver's door was not locked. So Grant reached in, shut off the car, opened all the doors to let the smoke out, hollered at the manager, called 911, and Grant pulled the other guy out of the car. And just as they did that, a police officer came up and basically said, you saved a life here. And there's a lot more to the story. I talked to mom and dad and Grant's coach, and talked to Grant quite a bit. Really nice young man. And of course, he's a Boy Scout. His goal, he's been a scout since kindergarten. We know the motto, be prepared. And his dad made a great point. Grant didn't grab his phone and start filming this. He didn't have his phone with him. That's why he had to call the manager to dial 911. He didn't, he said, I got to get this guy out of this car. And Grant got burned a little bit in the process, but he's okay. But, he's going to become an Eagle Scout here. That's his goal. I don't think anybody's going to doubt that. He was certainly prepared. So if people want to read a detailed telling of this story, go to John's Journal at mshsl.org, read about Grant, and there's some pictures of him. And it's just, I always tell people the greatest part of my job are the adults and the kids I get to hang out with. People like to complain about, so-called kids today, but here's an example of a young man who just did everything he needed to do, didn't think about it, didn't hesitate, saved a life, and it's pretty remarkable.
That's fantastic. That's as good as story gets. It's just awesome. And I also love the point. His first instinct wasn't to tweet something about it.
Right. This was Dad told me. He said, some kids, they'd grab their phone and film this.
It's so true. It's so
They would.
true.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And adults too.
Yeah.
We all have our phones. And no, he didn't even think about it. He, opened all the doors, shut off the car, called for help, pulled the guy out, saved his life. It's remarkable.
That's fantastic. Wow. So cool. All right. Well, I hate to transition from that story. I could spend an hour on that one, but other stuff. Let's talk about Byron and Benilde.
Yeah, these are not two guys. These are two schools. Byron High School down outside of Rochester, Benilde St. Margaret's. They have been playing each other in football. I think this is the second year in a row. So on Friday, I made a pretty short drive, about half an hour, to St. Louis Park to see this matchup. And the story for me, the immediate story, is Benilde's new head coach is Brad Anderson, someone I knew very well from covering his football teams at Wayzata. He had an absolute dynasty. They went to 5 Prep Bowls in 8 years. They won big school state titles in 05, 08, and 2010. He resigned from that job in 2016, and here it is. He's back as a head coach with Benilde. I'm working on a story about Brad's return, what he did in the interim, and he's just one of my favorite people. I had texted him the day before the game. I said, one of my goals during my final year in this job with the high school league is to see some of my favorite people, favorite places, and also go to new places. And I told him that, I'm so thrilled to see him back on the sidelines. I get to reunite with him. And then the Byron part of this is going to new places. It's an intriguing football program down there. The Bears played at US Bank Stadium last year, reaching the 4A state semifinals. And they beat Benilde pretty handily Friday night, 35-zip. And Benilde is clearly in a rebuilding stage, and there's work to do, but they've got the right coach in charge. And it's something. You get down to that Rochester area. Byron is one of these schools that used to be these little rural, quiet farm towns. And because of the economic and population motor that is the city of Rochester, there's a lot of towns down there. Byron, Casson Manorville, Stewartville, these schools have just grown by leaps and bounds because so many people work in Rochester, whether it's at the Mayo Clinic, in the hospitality industry, out the hotels, but they want to live in a smaller town. So these towns a short drive away are not quiet little towns. They're boom towns, and Byron is one of those. And I've never been to an event in Byron. I've driven past the high school. It's a really awesome, fairly new high school on the edge of town, but they've invited me down for their homecoming game in a couple of weeks. Holy Family will be the visiting team, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll learn more about Byron. It's homecoming. It'll be a big deal. I'm excited. Here's one more football note. So when Patrick Ricey was on with us last week, we talked about his riding with me to Kingsland for a 9-player football game, and I told the story as the game was starting. He asked me how long the game would take. And me and all my wisdom said, it'll be about 2 hours. Well, of course, it was 3 hours because it was just one of those games. So last Friday with this game, Byron at Benilde, I couldn't believe it when the game ended. There was running time in the fourth quarter. That goes fast. This game lasted 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes short of 2 hours. So basically an hour and 10 minutes quicker than the game I was at the previous Friday. So it just goes to show you never know.
Yeah, running time. It's terrible if you're a player. It's great if you if you're on a deadline.
No, it's the best thing for people writing on deadline. You can get that story done before the game's over. And I'm not writing on deadline now, but boy, I did that 100 times in my deadline writing career.
No doubt. All right, up next, we're going to take you to Hancock. We're going to thank the ref. We're going to get to John's MVT, most valuable teammate. First, though, John, let's hear more about Pizza Barn in Princeton and Jody Stay.
Yes, we can unveil the September pizza of the month.
Yes.
It's a buffalo chicken, mac, and cheese. I like every one of those words. The Pizza Barn starts with their famous house-made crust. They add buffalo mac and cheese, chunks of braised chicken thighs, and their own freshly shredded cheddar and mozzarella. After it's baked, they add house-made croutons and a drizzle of buffalo sauce. You can even add bacon or blue cheese crumbles or both. That sounds fabulous. And after last weekend's big time at Somerset Amphitheater with the food trucks, where they served all that good stuff during performances by the likes of Luke Bryan, Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, and John Mellencamp. The trucks are having a slow week, and rightfully slow. They need to rest up. You can get your fix Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. in Malacca at Rec Park. One of the trucks will be there. They do great things. And thanks again to our friend Jody Stay and everybody on her crew at the Pizza Barn. They will take great care of you. You'll have a meal to remember in a very friendly and comfortable setting.
Thank you, Jody. It's been great working with you and having your support all these years. Thanks so much. So let's head to Hancock now.
Yeah, I am heading to Hancock this Friday. This is a new place for me. I've driven through Hancock when I've been headed elsewhere. I've driven past the high school. I'm going to go to my first football game. This is 9-player football. And the big story here is they have not had a home football game in 2 years. This is going to be big. Their field just perennially flooded, so they ripped it up, put in irrigation, drainage tile. It's going to be perfect. They got to give the grass time to grow, so they're going to entertain Ortonville Friday night. I'll be there. It's a 3-hour drive each way, which is longer than to Kingsland or Benilde for me, but I'll spend 6 hours in the car. It'll be wonderful. I did go to a Hancock game last year. I think it was their first game of the season. Basically, they've been playing home games at a couple of nearby fields at the University of Minnesota Morris. Big Cat Stadium is really a nice place to play. And then they played some home games at Minnewaska High School in Glenwood, which is just up the road. But it's going to be a big Friday in Hancock, just a big celebration. They're finally going to have a home game. And they tell me this game is their designated Dad's Day, which means the fathers of football players are invited in to watch some film with the team before the game and be in the locker room. I'm looking forward to that. I have not experienced something like that before. And here's something that, as of this point, until anybody in Hancock hears this, they're unaware of this. But in 2022, the Hancock Owls won a Class A girls basketball state championship. And people familiar with the Target Center know that the Timberwolves and Lynx and Target Center, they make these great big banners to honor the 4 state championship teams, 4 boys, 4 girls basketball. They hang them up in the rafters. A year later, when there's new champions, they replace them. So I got a call from somebody with the Timberwolves and Lynx this week. I had tweeted that I'm going to Hancock. They've got this. I don't know how big these things must be 15 feet tall. I don't know. But it was explained to me they're just so nearly impossible to box up and ship. So since I was going to Hancock, could I deliver this banner, this state championship banner? And I assume we can get it in the back seat if we roll it up, fold it up. I don't know what they're going to do. So I'm happy to do that. I will be delivering that, and I'll let them know. I'll call people there and let them know. And if they want to gather the basketball players from last year's team, this year's team, we can have a little ceremony. I don't know where they're going to hang it. I don't know if anybody has a gym wall big enough for these things, but it's my honor to do it. And one other note, this is a volleyball note. A couple of milestones up at Sauk Center. Jim Klopp Hockey is the coach. He's a good guy. I've talked to Jim. He got his 500th career volleyball coaching victory last week. He's the 27th volleyball coach in Minnesota history to reach 500. And at Lakeview, a senior named Aubrey Ross, she got her 1,000th career assist. That's a big number. Congrats to them.
Great stuff. All right, let's go with 2 set pieces to wrap up this show. Reminder, we have the best lineup in town. John Millea on Preps, Jeff Diamond, former Vikings general manager on the Vikings, Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta on One Wild Show, Kevin Gord on another hockey show. We have the Bar Down Beauties. We have Randy Shaver's high school football show. Don Mitchell on all sports, but highlighting a lot of women's sports and women in sports. Roy Smalley, Lavelle Neal, myself on baseball, John Krasinski on basketball, the Viking Update Show, outdoor content, and Mike Grimm on the Gophers. We have a fantastic lineup. So check it out. If you find a show you like, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. Let's thank a ref now.
Yeah, Jim. When I talk to officials, no matter the sport, it's pretty often I see someone I know, and I was walking up towards the 5 officials before this Benilde Byron football game. And here you go. I saw people I know. The VAC judge was Nick Rathman. He's a Waseca native who's the athletic director at Blake. I've known Nick for a long time. I did not know he was a football official. I think he's fairly new at it. Good for him. And then the umpire on this crew was Carolyn Dirksen, someone I'm very familiar with as a basketball official. She's one of the top basketball officials in the state. I didn't know she also worked football. At halftime, I was chatting, and I said to Carolyn, "How long have you worked football?" And I think it's 4 or 5 years. And we see that more and more on the college level. We have NFL officials who are female, and boy, you get somebody like Carolyn Dirksen out there. That just says a lot, and she's really good too. The other members of that crew did a great job. Chris Haugen was the referee, along with line judge Brett Huffendick and down judge Mark Raja. They did a great job. So let's thank all of our officials for everything they do. And if anybody's interested, we need officials.
Yes, I'm glad to keep highlighting that as well. All right, now John's most valuable teammate of the week.
Yeah, this is the great weekly award from the Minnesota State High School League. Layden Christensen is a senior at Cedar Mountain who's vital to his school's football team. Layden is the team manager. He was born with a rare genetic disorder called Sotos syndrome, and because of this, he's unable to play football, but he enthusiastically serves in the important role of team manager and always does everything with a positive attitude. Congrats to Layden Christensen from Cedar Mountain on being a most valuable teammate. And one final note here, Jim.
Yes, sir.
It's the week of September 11th, and now a couple of days after that, in 2001, I wrote a column in the Star Tribune. I talked to the theory of what I wanted to write was, and this ended up being the headline: high school sports can help the healing. I talked to the then athletic director at Columbine High School in Colorado, talked to someone at a Wisconsin school that had recently gone through tragedy. And now for 15 years, I've been posting that on John's Journal on the High School League website. It's up there now. It's just kind of become a tradition. It's not a happy tradition, but we need to remember what those times were like, as the years go on. Young people don't remember that. Kids in high school now, they have they weren't old enough to know what was going on. And to me, I'm not going to say the best thing about it, because there were no best things about it, but was the way the country came together in the wake of that. And for a good long time, this was a pretty united place. It's not that way now, certainly, but I this week, every year, I repost that thing. And since I'm going to be stepping away from the high school league, this is the last time that'll be posted. But people, I get a good reaction. I'll get a couple of emails every year thanking me for that. So again, that's it's on John's Journal if anybody would care to read that.
Go to John's Journal at MSHSL.org. Check out John's Journal, just his archive of great stories, but also this is definitely a special one that you should read. Well, John, another great show. Thank you so much. I know this is theoretically your last year, but keeps going like this, you're just not going to be able to quit us.
I'm not having second thoughts, Jim. I'm really not.
Nor do I want you to. In fact, Karen Cleary, we hired Karen from the Twins to be our salesperson at TalkNorth.com, and she's retiring, and we're just thrilled for her. It's just a great thing when you can retire on your own terms, on your own timetable.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm going to go away completely. I may still find some outlets to do some writing. I just don't know. I'm going to enjoy this. I am enjoying this last year, and looking forward to going to Hancock and going to Byron. I'll be at a football game up in Deer River, I think, next week, another place I've never been, and just enjoying the heck out of it. So what's better than that?
Beautiful. Well, keep enjoying it, and thanks for the work. Thanks to everyone who listens to Preps Today with John Millea and TalkNorth.com. We'll talk to you next week.